On the 22nd of April 2009, a protest was taking place at the site in Glen Gad, County Mayo, where the Corrib gas pipeline is planned to come ashore. This site had been occupied by protesters for weeks, attempting to prevent the erection of fencing by Shell, despite the apparent lack of planning permission. Winner of the Goldman Environmental Prize and member of the Rossport 5, Willie Corduff, lay under a Shell truck, preventing work from continuing. According to Mr. Corduff's statement, in an attempt to remove him from beneath the truck, Gardaí threw stones and insulted him.
They took off my boots and they twisted my toes to get me to lose my grip.
At 11:30 p.m, what Shell to Sea describes as a handful of protesters unravelled some fencing surrounding the site. At 3 a.m, while Mr. Corduff was stretching his legs, he states that he was set upon by at least 6 masked men.
And the next thing I felt myself on the ground, with 4 of them kneeling above me. They put me down on my side, which I think they were professional at their job.
The following morning, a report appeared on the RTE website claiming that late the previous night, 15 men in balaclavas, armed with iron bars and chains, had broken into the compound with bolt cutters and used a company digger to cause what they termed considerable damage to the compound. This report appears to have the Garda Síochána as its source, as on the 1 o'clock news, Chief Superintendent Tony McNamara claimed that the incident appeared to be well planned and was an almost military-style operation. Presenter Uno O'Hagan went on to ask, "You had made inquiries. Shell did not need planning permission to do what they were doing." McNamara replied, "We were quite satisfied that they were within their rights to carry on their business that day." It is worth noting that RTE and the Gardaí made a point of emphasising the legality of the construction at the beach, something which is clearly outside journalistic and police remit. On the 24th of April, the Irish Times quoted Superintendent Michael Larkin. He gave a similar account, making no mention of the attack on Mr. Corduff, but stating that one security guard was injured on the arm and received medical attention, contradicting Chief Superintendent McNamara's previous statement that the security guards had run away. The BBC also picked up the Garda report, highlighting the claims that a Shell security guard had been injured in the incident. In the days following the event, statements were made by both the Gardaí and government ministers, alleging that the protesters were the ones at fault. In the Irish Times on April the 23rd, Chief Superintendent McNamara said, "People are absolutely entitled to protest, but it should be peaceful and within the law." The next day, Superintendent Michael Larkin encouraged the protesters to stand back and used the Northwest Forum to complain. Minister for Energy Eamon Ryan encouraged protesters to stick to the rule of law. On May the 1st, at a meeting in Belmullet, Ryan and Minister for Community, Rural and Gaeltacht Affairs, Eamon O'Queeve, requested that the protesters remain within the law. On the 11th of May, Archbishop Desmond Tutu expressed his concern over the attack on Mr. Corduff, stating the following: "Mr. Corduff is a small farmer who has lived all his life and raised his family in the area. His only interest and motivation is the protection of his family and the welfare of his community. His opposition to the gas project has always been entirely peaceful and non-violent." His statement received minimal media coverage, but was immediately attacked in an article by Kevin Myers. The Irish Independent attempted to label the protesters as terrorists. In an article entitled "Republicans to Blame for Plant Break-In," they quoted a senior Garda source, stating that Shell to Sea had been recruiting dissident Republicans from both sides of the border, saying, "They are using it as a recruiting ground." The paper has continually expressed openly antagonistic, if not outright violent opposition to anti-pipeline protesters. On the 14th of November 2006, Kevin Myers wrote an article about prominent protester Maura Harrington, where he urged Gardaí to make bloody sure that the treatment she received at the local hospital was both protracted and thoroughly merited. On the 3rd of August 2007, Myers wrote the following of Shell to Sea protesters: "I hate to criticise a multinational, because generally speaking I'm a great fan of multinational, they being the basis of our present prosperity. But I have to say that Shell has been scandalously remiss in not employing someone to bump off a few of those fellows." Such antagonism is not confined to the Irish Independent. In an Irish Times article entitled "The Half-Truths Behind Corrib Gas Controversy," dated March 16, 2009, Peter Murtagh identified Republican Sinn Féin as a supporter of the campaign, attempting to link Shelta C with a terrorist group by implication. In a classic example of Orwellian newspeak, he referenced the sustained abuse and intimidation of anyone associated with the Corrib project. On the 21st of May 2009, the Phoenix magazine published an article in which they alleged that lobbying by Shell had provoked this new aggressive style of reporting in the Irish Times. Tabloid journalist Paul Williams has also attempted to link Shelta C to Republican groups in an October 2006 article entitled "How the Shinners Hijacked Rossport." On June 2009, he presented a programme entitled "Paul Williams Investigates the Battle for the Gas Field," in which he repeated many of these allegations, offering no supporting evidence other than the testimony of select supporters of the project. On June 19th, the Phoenix printed an article stating that Paul Williams had been a guest of Shell at the Ireland-England rugby match at Croke Park in 1997. Willie Corduff is not the only Goldman Prize winner to have faced attacks and intimidation. For years, Maria Gunno, a campaigner against flooding, water contamination and toxic pollution caused by mountaintop removal in the Appalachian Mountains, has faced harassment, intimidation and threats upon her life by mining workers. The attack on Mr. Corduff has caused officials of the Goldman Prize to send a letter of concern to President Mary McAleese and Taoiseach Brian Cowan, urging them to reconsider Shell's plans for the region. This has not been widely reported by the media. The use of the media by Shell to advocate their position is mirrored by their consistent employment of ex-media men and women. John Egan was appointed as Director of Shell in Ireland, having previously worked for RTE and the BBC. Christy Loftus, the External Affairs Advisor, is the ex-President of the National Union of Journalists and the editor of The Western People. Recently, Mayo news editor Denise Horan was appointed Senior Communications Advisor for the Corrib Gas project. As we have seen, much effort has been made in the media to present protesters as being violent, thuggish, intimidatory and criminal.
Why are you stating this kind of violent
for health and
protest
safety? First of all, it's not violent. It's been peaceful for 2 years till the cops came and started it. It's terrible, Jim, what's happening here. We had a quiet community and the guards have the whole community upset and causing a war here. We're here peaceful to protect our families, Jim, and our natural resources. And there the guards are using batons to get us out of the way.
However, the Garda Síochána have often been accused of brutality in their treatment of protesters. Despite injuries to protesters being witnessed and often filmed and photographed, no Garda has ever been indicted for assault. This incident comes at a critical time for Shell. A civil suit has been instigated in the US, accusing the company of complicity in human rights abuses in Nigeria, including the deaths of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni 8. On Monday the 8th of June, it was announced that Shell had settled the case out of court with a payment of $15.5 million. Ever since October 2006, when Gardaí advanced, batons raised and a crowd of non-violent protesters blocking the road at Ballinaboy, it seems that a concerted effort has been made by the Irish media to make protesters appear to be the aggressors, and Shell and the Gardaí to be innocent victims. Anti-pipeline protesters have been consistently portrayed as isolated, intransigent individuals with sinister criminal intent. What has not been widely reported is that 2 of the 4 local groups opposing the project, Pobal Chilchaman and Pobal Lakela, have proposed an alternative route for the pipeline, which would avoid local houses and the drinking supply at Carramore Lake, as well as the special areas of conservation currently threatened. On the 4th of June, a report appeared in the Irish Times by Lorna Siggins, a journalist who has shown a rare impartiality while reporting on the Corrib controversy. She reported that an oral hearing held by An Bord Pleanála heard that houses within 230 metres of the pipeline could burn spontaneously from heat radiation if gas was at full pressure. Residents would have 30 seconds to escape from the radiation. Previously, Desmond Brannigan of DB Marine Research and Associates had told the hearing that 1,200 deaths had been recorded in the past decade due to pipeline fractures in 58 countries. This case has shown the Irish media's abdication of their responsibility to report the truth in an unbiased fashion. They have reported half-truths, allegations and outright falsehoods in order to marginalise, criminalise and intimidate a group of people whose struggle is not that of a frustrated and intransigent group of malcontents. The more evidence accumulates, the clearer it becomes that their fight is one of local, national and global importance. This recent wave of media attacks shows the desperation of Shell, as well as its apologists, to destroy opposition once and for all. It may have the opposite effect than they intended, and expose the strategies of Shell and its allies and apologists to the attention of the world.